and welcome back to Tabletop Thoughts. Today I thought I would go through some old miniatures that I had found when I was digging around and show off. This is some of the first stuff I've ever painted, as well as a few of my original conversions that I made out of some cheap plastic pieces. So, many years ago when I first started painting minis, I found these. And that is a little Dungeon Master. These are all pewter. I tried to write a little bit on that book, but that's Dungeon Master. Here's Hank the Ranger. And as you look at his face, which might be a little hard on the camera, you can see he has like a mustache and a beard and everything. Long ponytail. I think the theme of these minis were, if they never escaped from being pulled into the Dungeons and Dragons world, what they would have looked like when they grew up a little bit. So here's Hank with his bow. Yeah, I don't know why he has arrows on his back, because his bow just shot energy arrows when he pulled it back. Here is Eric the Cavalier. You can see he still has his shield, but he upgraded with a sword. He's got himself a mustache and beard. Here is Presto. Look at that hair. He's still got the hat, and he has a book on his back. Alright, here is Presto. You can see he looks way older. He got that giant, Merlin beard going on there. He's got an actual dagger on his side now. Still has the hat, the green robes. He now has a, looks like a wizard book on his back. Maybe he's got a book and it's helping him learn how to cast spells better. Here is Bobby the Barbarian, full-grown man, still wearing nothing but the shorts. Got a dagger. You can see he's still got the blonde hair, but beard and mustache. And there's Uni, and that's a small skull, so something must have happened years ago to Uni. He's wearing his skull as a badge of honor, apparently. Diana, the acrobat. She was already like a teenager, so if they were there, she hasn't changed much. Same outfit, same, she still has the staff that increases. It looks like she got a weapon now too, but she looks pretty much the same. And finally, here is Sheila, the thief. As kind of like Diana, she was already kind of like a teenage girl, but she wasn't a little kid. She was one of the older ones, so she looks pretty much the same, although you'll notice she's not carrying a weapon as well. Because I guess if you're going to stay there long enough, you're going to have to learn to fight and stop hiding. Here we go. Here's the main guy. Venger. He's got a weapon as well. They stuck 2 horns on here because I think it wasn't like officially licensed. So these are, everything else was generic enough that you can get away with. This guy, you have to have both horns, otherwise you get some kind of copyright infringement. And then there is a group of the orcs, and they are like the pig-faced orcs from the cartoon. So there's one with a banner. Here's one with bagpipes. I don't remember them ever playing bagpipes in the cartoon, but here's one with some bagpipes. Here's like a wizard or shaman looking one. He's got like a stick with a skull on it for like a wand, and he's carrying like a staff with some feathers on it. Here's just another sword and board orc. Another orc with a sword and shield. And another one. That's me. I like these guys. I would use them in a D&D game. No problem. The old pig-faced orcs. Here's their leader or champion. You can tell he has the nice helmet. And here's probably like a lieutenant looking guy. So those are some of the first minis that I ever painted. I used some, you know, crappier craft paints. You had to water down. You can tell it's not the greatest. I put a wash on them. You can kind of tell it pulled. But, you know, you got to look back where you start. They're not the worst things I've ever seen. I mean, I think I do a better job now, but... Alright, this really isn't a mini, but this is something that I got back in like 2015 to 2020. There was a 5-year period where I used to play Dungeons and Dragons a lot, like a couple times a week. We used to go to this, it was like a board game club. It was called the Malted Meeple in Hudson, Ohio. They are no longer around. They got kind of killed by COVID. But one of my friends that played at my table, her name was Vic, she worked at the Goodwill. And she would get stuff like this, and they're all pewter, and she used to get them, and she would bring them in and give them to me. You know, she would buy them, and I'd paint them up, and I could set them around the table or something like that. But, you know, they're not the greatest paint jobs, but I think it was okay for using some craft paints back in the day. Alright, here's some of my conversions that I've done over the years. Alright, here is a roper. You see some of the paint peeled off back here. It's been a while. But if you can't tell, now that it's about Halloween, this guy is created from those little plastic witch fingers that you get at the dollar stores. So yeah, it's just a witch finger that you would put on. You can kind of see if I turn it like this. Here's the finger and here's the long nails. I just took one of those, I drilled a couple of holes and put some wire in it, covered it with hot glue, made his eyes with the hot glue, tried to, you know, cover everything so it was a little more hidden. The teeth are just painted on, they're just white paint. So I mean, he is not the greatest thing, but I thought that was pretty inventive. The only problem is with these plastic things, the paint doesn't stick as well. This is just crappy craft paint, so you can tell it got peeled off, and unfortunately had peeled it the whole way up. I'll have to touch him up now that I'm a little better at what I'm doing. Here is a Solly that I got from the Dollar Tree. I needed some abominable snowmen, you know, some yetis for my game, so I got this. So pretty much just get them, cut them off his old base, put them on a wooden circle. This is flock. It's I think mostly baking soda with glue. I don't know if the camera catches it, but he has sparkles. I put a glitter glue in part of it, so it has a glittering to it, so it looks like snow. Just, you know, painted him black, and then I dry brushed him with a light gray with a white on top of that. Painted his eyes blue so they kind of stand out. He makes a nice yeti, and that's, I mean, it cost me $1 plus whatever. A wooden disc is what, nickel. All the extra stuff is not that expensive, so that's how you can make yourself a cheap yeti if you need one. And you can see he's a large size creature. He's on a 2-inch base. Another one from Monsters Inc. is Mike Wazowski. He is a little, I don't know what they call these, mind witness. It's like a little beholder. So he only has 4 eye stalks with the main eye. I kind of left the mouth the way it was and just painted his teeth, painted it black, you know, teeth are white. I gave him a purpley color, added some eyes. These are just, I drilled holes in them, used some wire and some little beads, and I made a Mike Wazowski into a beholder. The base is all clear. I got these like stands. I just had these discs, so I just kind of drilled a hole and added this stand into them after I cut off his legs and that. But not too bad for my witness for just something I made from a dollar store toy. Alright, and here's my favorite. This is Boo, but Boo got turned into something else. This is some other nasty creature from the deep. So I left the eyes where they were, all the hair. I took like my Dremel and I cut her face tire eye, just made it into a V, as you can kind of see. So her face is all gone. I cut that all out. Then I drilled a couple of holes, added some toothpicks for teeth, and painted it blue and purple with some green hair. And that is a custom unique monster that I made from a Boo from the Dollar Tree. Alright, let's continue looking at some of the miniatures of my collection. Here is a Ironmore troll from the Printing Goes Ever On. I really like these guys. I've painted up, I don't know, 2 or 3 of each troll at this point. Lots of details like the straps, the rings, the bands. I really like these guys. Here's another one. They're kind of like a pair. Here is a dragon from the print. No, these are from Bright Minis. Yes, this is a Bright Minis dragon. I did this up as a black dragon. The miniature starts the same size as this red one. So what I did was I blew it up 100% to make the base go from, this is roughly a 2-inch base. And I made it up to a 3-inch base. Just in the slicer, you know, you just change the scale. I really like how this guy came out. That's me. It's a reasonable adult dragon. I like the eyes, how I did them green because they kind of glow. I like that. Here's the red one. This would be more like a young dragon. Something that you could throw at a, you know, a first or second level party or something like that. You know, they don't have to kill it. They drive it away, and eventually, you know, maybe it keeps coming back. Wants to reclaim its treasure. Dragons are intelligent. You know, it could come back and just be a reoccurring villain. Here's another Angry Ball of Eyes from Fat Dragon Games. These are one of my favorite models from them. Everything that Fat Dragon does is all supportless. That's made to be printed on an FDM printer. Tom Tolos is the guy that runs the company. Great guy. He releases, when I first started off, I had just my Creality Ender 3 Pro. So I would get stuff like that. It would be easy to print. Tom was nice enough that he would go through a profile, make them available for free on, you know, Drive-Thru-RPG, so you could just use his profile, maybe tweak it a little bit for your printer, but making it real nice and easy. Here is a manticore. This is from EC3D Design. I backed, it was a collection that he has on, I believe it's on My Mini Factory. If you look up EC3D Design, it was the last one. It was the Beast and Baddies Volume 2. But there are some really nice miniatures in there. Here's one of them. I just did this up with some, this is resin printed. I did it up with slap chop, you know, dry brush highlights, some speed paints. But this guy is definitely table ready. Here is a Grick from the Printing Goes Ever On. I really like the colors I went with this. It's just 2 different greens. I believe both those are India inks. a yellow speed paint for his bill, some black eyes, but there's something about indie inks. I really like them. They cover over if you thin them out or you don't apply it too thick. You know, you can see the highlights and everything through it because they're transparent. Some of them are nice enough to have like a shellac in it, so when you're done it's actually sealed, so you could paint on top of them. You don't have to worry about reactivating the paint. Very nice. These are also from EC3D Design. The slads. That's my least favorite of the three. Here's the red slot. Yeah, I don't know why his feet didn't come out too good on this one. I don't know if this was an earlier model that he resurrected for the collection, but this guy is okay. I really like this guy. He's the green slot. He has his little wizard staff. Same thing, I did a speed paint after a slap chop on it. But there's a lot of character to this guy. And out of the three, here's my favorite, the blue slot. And he's, I mean, you can see all the scales and stuff like that. I believe I did this with speed paints as well. Some bone for his bony protrusions. You know, look right there, ready to jab that into you and put a little egg inside of you. But yeah, it's just his face. I really like this guy. Alright, here's another one from the Printing Goes Ever On. An owlbear. I went with a bald eagle coloring scheme for him. So a brown, you know, back here on the back side with a white head, yellow bill. I give all the bad guys, if you notice, red eyes, because that's how you can tell something is evil and bad. For the base on this one, it is a 3D printed FDM base, but he's made out of resin. I went with just glued down some craft sand, and I put a little of my homemade dry flocking on top. It's really just a bunch of real cheap spices and green tea that you can get at the Dollar Tree. Back when they used to have everything for $1, you get a couple of big containers and a little bit of green tea, and mix it all together, and you get all these different colors in it. It looks like, you know, like dried leaves and stuff like that, some dead vegetation, and then I added some grass tuff to it. Ooh, very nice. Gotta be careful, they're resin. This guy is from Artisan Guild. No, yes, the Artisan Guild. He is every month they do a Vanguard minis, so he's one of those. So, you know, a little skull down here. I tried to make some brickwork look like it was like almost like a clay bricks, but that is a nice looking beholderkin. This guy's, I don't know, when I did the wash on him, I think I went a little heavy. He looks like dirty, but this is a Cyclops. This one is also from EC3D Design, from the Beast and Baddie collection. So he doesn't look too bad. Just I think I put too much wash on him when I did it, and I didn't get it all off in time. It started to dry. So, I mean, he is a Cyclops, so he can be dirty. He lives outside. Just I wish the wash wasn't so dark on it. Here is a manticore from Bright Minis. This is FDM. So this is all printed as one piece. No supports. Bright Minis is another great company that does supportless miniatures for FDM printing. That was the first company I ever used when I got my printer. Once I got tired of trying to find everything on Thingiverse, you know, you find them and you're like, man, they have a lot of nice stuff for if all you have is a FDM printer, you don't want to deal with all the mess of resin. Yeah. I gave them like a human face, the lion body. Alright, here is another one from EC3D Design. This is they call it the Shambler. The shambling mound. 3D printed FDM printer, no supports. The EC3D Design also has some that are supportless for FDM printers. They're called like, they have different collections like Everyday Heroes, stuff like that. But, you know, I just did some grass green for the base. I used some brown for all the vines. The rocks are, you know, gray color, and then he's 2 different shades of green, red eyes, and then he has mushrooms growing on him, so of course I did him up with the red tops, white dots. But he is a nice looking shambling mound. These 2, I don't know exactly where I got them. I know I got them from the internet somewhere. I paid for them. But here is like a stone or a mountain troll or giant. But you know, he's all muscular. He's got his stick. Everything's kind of a muted gray and blue, but he looks really nice. You know, drop one of those on the table if your players are up in the mountains or that. Something to fight. Here's the other one I found. This is a wyvern. It's perched on top of a nice stone. That is a wooden disc, but he's resin printed, and I just mounted it. I think it came on the stone, so I just mounted it, added some actual just real sand. You can see the bigger particles in it. Made it like a crack looking earth with a couple of dried grass tufts. But these is a very nice looking wyvern. Alright, so we get towards the end of this collection. I found her on my mini factory I picked up. But yeah, this is an awesome looking Medusa. The green and yellows, I really like that, with her top being green. A different green for her snake hair. The bow's brown and that. But she is definitely look like she'd be a killer. And one of my favorites, the printing goes ever on. Hogger. He is a Celtic dragon. Front end looks like a normal dragon like you're used to, although he has a little metal here. The back end looks more like a serpent, almost reminds me of like Asian ideas of dragons and stuff like that. Same thing, he's a wooden disc. This guy's about, what, 4 inches across? Added some real rocks, some grass tufts, grass flocking, my homemade stuff. I almost made like a path going through it. But I really like this guy as well. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this, check out the next video right here. It's packed with more great content. And as always, keep on gaming.